Hello, everybody, and welcome back to the Data Playbook. Today we have our Week 15 Sunday games, and unfortunately I didn't get all the changes that I wanted to in for today, but we'll just stick with our regular data, so let's get right to it. For our next earlier game, you have the Jets going to Jacksonville, where the Jacksonville is favored on the money line with a spread of 13.5 and a total line of 41.5. Moving over for your team averages, and then looking at the rankings, you have the Jets with a pretty bad offense overall, except for this rushing rank of 7, but they're the worst team in the league at passing. Pretty bad scoring rank of 26 here, too. Defensively, it looks about the same, just flipped, with an allowed scoring rank of 27, allowed passing rank of 9, and then an allowed rushing rank of 30. For Jacksonville, you have about an average offense with a scoring rank of 9, a passing rank of 18, and a rushing rank of 14. They are the worst with their tight ends at 25. And defensively, it's a little bit more mixed, with an allowed scoring rank of 11, allowed passing rank of 23, but they're the best in the league at stopping the rush, and they have an allowed tight end rank of 28. For your quarterbacks, you have Tyrod Taylor and Justin Fields listed as out, so Brady Cook is the next in line for the Jets, where he's only had one game with 2.5 fantasy points and 2 interceptions in that game. Otherwise, you have Trevor Lawrence with an average of 16.6 fantasy points per game. So here's the season averages for Trevor Lawrence. It wouldn't make sense for Brady Cook here, but Brady Cook also does have 2 interceptions this season. And on the other side, you have Trevor Lawrence with 11 interceptions and 2 fumbles lost due to a sack, as well as 1 rushing fumble. The charts are going to make sense here for Brady Cook as well, since he doesn't have anything. But to see how Trevor Lawrence impacts the rushing game, you have him at 17.3% of the rushing carry share and 16.6% of the rushing yard share. For your running backs, you have Breece Hall and Travis Etienne, with Hall averaging 13.3 fantasy points per game and Etienne averaging 14.6. Flipping over for the seasonal averages, and then looking at the turnovers, you have Etienne with no turnovers this season, and you have Breece Hall with 2 rushing fumbles. And then looking at their share data, you have Breece Hall with 58.3% of the rushing carry share and 53.5% of the rushing yard share. And it's interesting to note that the next largest portion of the rushing carry share and rushing yard share actually goes to Justin Fields. For Travis, he gets about 56.9% of the rushing carry share and 60.5% of the rushing yard share. And it's a little bit more mixed up between Trevor Lawrence and Tootin as the next largest share owners. Moving into your receivers, you have John Mechie and Brian Thomas. Mechie averaging 5.7 fantasy points per game, and Thomas averaging 10.2. Here's your seasonal averages for the two, and with no turnovers, we'll go straight to the charts. So give the video a pause if you want to look at any of this in more detail. But looking at their share, you have Mechie with 8.8% of the target share and 8.1% of the receiving yard share, and then you have Brian Thomas with 15.7% of the target share and 17.3% of the receiving yard share. Your next receivers are Donnie Mitchell and Jakobi Meyers, with Mitchell averaging 4.8 fantasy points per game and Jakobi Meyers averaging 11.5. Again with their averages, and the only turnover between the two comes from Mitchell with 1 receiving fumble. And then also for Mitchell, you get him at 13.4% of the target share and 14.5% of the receiving yard share. And then you have Jakobi Meyers at 18.2% of the target share and 20.5% of the receiving yard share. That also makes Jakobi Meyers the most targeted and has the most receiving yards on the team, which is pretty impressive since I believe he came in later this season from the Raiders. So this would be a smaller portion because there's by team. So he's really caught up and become the number 1 receiver in Jacksonville. And then for our tight ends, you have Mason Taylor listed as out. So instead, Jeremy Ruckert, who averages 3.5 fantasy points per game. And then you have Brenton Strange, averaging 9.2 fantasy points per game. Here's your seasonal averages for those two, and they have no turnovers. So we'll get straight into their share, with Ruckert getting about 6% of the target share and 6.6% of the receiving yard share. And then you have Strange with 8.9% of the target share and 11.9% of the receiving yard share. So that wraps up all the data for this game. It does seem like this would heavily favor Jacksonville, especially with a very hurt Jets team, who's in their 3rd quarterback with a passing rate of 32, so they're not going to do very much in the passing game, I don't believe. They could still have a decent rushing game, I suppose, but they're going against the best team in the league at stopping their rush. So I think any way you stack this up, it does look like it heavily favors Jacksonville. And there's all your pregame data. I hope that you enjoyed, and if you did, leave a like and subscribe, and leave a comment on what else you'd want to see in the future. But otherwise, thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.